you all. I hope everybody is doing well today. I'm Mary the Curious Cowgirl, and you are watching another training video with Getting Social with the Curious Cowgirl. So if you are a business owner in the antiques industry or vintage industry, maybe you have a brick and mortar shop, or maybe you are selling at an antique mall or flea market. Maybe you are the manager of an antique mall, or maybe you're just simply selling out of your house. But if you are somehow involved in the antiques or vintage industry, I'm here to help you learn how to better utilize social media so that you can attract more customers and clients and make more sales. So I have been a little bit off the grid. Those of you all who are regulars of my podcast, or if you watch my training videos on Facebook or Instagram, either one, I've been a little bit off the grid because my husband and I opened up a booth at a local antique shop, a local antique mall. And those of y'all who have a booth know what that's kind of all about. We spent a lot of time, kind of organizing all of our things and thinking about, pricing and moving and, getting the booth set up and making sure it looked nice and, all of that. And so we're very excited to sort of be in the biz, so to speak, that way. And then I am also on my own doing quite a bit of selling on my Instagram account, at the Curious Cowgirl. So if you are interested in checking out some of the goodies I'm finding and selling there, please give me a follow. But it's taken a lot of time to kind of get all that organized. And there was shelving involved and inventory and, all those things. So anyway, it's been a lot of fun, but it did get me a little bit sidetracked and off the grid, but I'm back. And so today's topic, you all, I don't want to oversell this too much, but I just feel like, truth in advertising, I really do have 3 very simple steps for you if you want to be successful on social media. I think that a lot of times when people talk about how you have to be successful on social media, all the things you have to do, it feels like there's this huge long list of all these things we have to do and all these hurdles we have to jump over and all this stuff we have to learn. And really at the end of the day, y'all, there's just 3 things that you really need to do to be successful, okay? And so I'm gonna go over those things with you today and give you all some strategies to successfully navigate these 3 things. All right, so the 3 things are, you all, plain and simple, you've got a plan, you have to execute your plan, and you have to evaluate what you did. That's it. You have to plan and you have to execute your plan, and then you need to spend some time evaluating. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit more, because again, I don't want to oversell that or make it sound too simple, but when it comes down to kind of brass tacks with social media, I think that all of the challenges that I see people experiencing, all of the frustrations people have with social media, all of the ways that social media can make us feel like we're failing or we're not doing a good job, really kind of come down to not having a good plan, therefore there's nothing to execute, and therefore there's nothing to evaluate. Okay, so let's visit about that a little bit. And then I'm going to give you all, like I said, some very doable action steps that I think will help you. So you all know that in addition to having digital courses that people can purchase and take that course on their own, I also work with individual clients. And probably you all, I would say the most popular service that I offer, and then probably the most needed service I offer, is helping with editorial calendars, putting together a content calendar or an editorial calendar. And at the end of the day, an editorial calendar or a content calendar, whatever you want to call it, is nothing more than a plan that you execute and then have something to look back on so that you can do some meaningful evaluation, okay? And and it really is just that simple. But I think one of the reasons that a lot of my individual clients want my help with an editorial calendar is they know that they need help with social media for a myriad number of reasons. They're busy doing all the things that we all do when you own your own business, or they may feel a little bit intimidated about what to talk about. They're not really sure. They certainly know their business well. They know what they're selling well, but in terms of translating that into, kind of social media fodder for conversation, they feel a little bit lost. And so either because of lack of time or feeling intimidated or feeling uncertain, they just don't do it. Or when they sit down and say, okay, today's the day that I'm going to post on Facebook, and they, kind of open up their phone, or they open up their computer, their laptop, and they go, I'm not even really sure what to talk about, right? I definitely get that. I definitely understand that. I also find that a number of my clients who have been, successfully posting on social media have frequently feelings of kind of insecurity about how good, quote, good is their content. They're kind of worried that maybe it's boring, or that, I don't know, maybe it's not getting the point across well, or that they don't sound as confident as they really feel about what they're talking about. I find that very normal, and a lot too. And so both of those concerns, I think, are very easily addressed with a really good plan that is reflected in a content calendar or an editorial calendar, and that plan is executed, okay? Something else that I hear a lot from particularly potential clients when I visit with someone who's interested in hiring me one-on-one, 9 times out of 10, one of the questions I get asked is, how do I get more followers on social media? How do I get more people to interface or interact on my posts? I hear that all the time. And then that is such a legitimate question. I mean, that really is, we all want to know that, right? And while I can't totally peel back the curtain as far as, well, here's the secret sauce, because a lot of it has to do with algorithm, and I'm not in charge of that. But one major, I guess, tool for attracting more people to your social media, or to engage the people who are already following you more, is to have a really good plan for what you're talking about, and executing that plan, and then evaluating how well that plan went, okay? A plan allows you to be consistent, which is one of the ways that you can attract more people to your social media. And a plan allows you to really evaluate, kind of from a 30,000 foot vantage point, what is my content? What am I talking about? And is it interesting? Is it varied? And if the answer is yes, it's interesting, and yes, it's varied, then you are going to have more success in getting people to engage in your posts, right? So a editorial calendar or a social media calendar, content calendar, really solves a lot of problems. It really answers a lot of questions for people. I'm going to talk more about this in a future podcast, but I'm recording this on November the 9th. And so we're entering into, and kind of already into, the holiday season when people are busy shopping. And one big day that I know a lot of us are focused on who own our own businesses is Small Business Saturday, right? That's typically the Saturday following Thanksgiving. And while in a lot of ways, every Saturday is Small Business Saturday, right? We want to draw people's attention to our place of business or what we're selling all the time. But I think there seems to be, appropriately so, a heightened concern or heightened awareness about that during the holidays, because so many more people are shopping. And so again, having a really thorough plan that you've thought about ahead of time, you're clear about what you're doing, you execute on that plan, and you have intentionality behind it, really is going to translate into more eyes on, more focus on, more awareness of your business, whether it's Small Business Saturday or, just a regular Tuesday, right? It's all about the plan, okay? So let me turn my page here, because I want to make sure I've got some good information. I want to make sure I don't miss anything here. So I kind of want to walk you all through how would you on your own create a content calendar or an editorial calendar. And this really is the exact steps that I go through with my clients, okay? So if you're, don't do this if you're driving, but if you're somewhere where you can get out a pen and a piece of paper, I would definitely encourage you to take notes. Or if you're driving or walking, come back and fast forward to this part of the podcast, because this really is, kind of the real hands-on tools that will help you do this on your own if you are so inclined. So let's see, I've got 6 steps, okay, for how you really put together a calendar. All right, so here's the first step, and it's kind of a decision that you need to make as far as what's going to be the easiest thing for you. Do not make this more complicated than it needs to be, because if you frustrate yourself at the outset, then you'll never get through it, right? Okay, so the first thing is, you want to figure out where and how you're going to keep your calendar. So if you want to do it on a legal pad, fine. And on the left-hand column, literally make a list of 1 through 30 or 31 or whatever, however many days there are in the month, and a column at the top with, Monday through Sunday. Or if you want to do it on an Excel spreadsheet, if that, floats your boat. I'm a big Excel spreadsheet person, but however you want to do it, make sure that you have thought through how you're going to write this down, because you're definitely going to want to write this down in a way that you can really see as much of the month as possible. You can, if you're pretty conversant in Word, there are blank calendar templates on Word that you can print out. So that's another way to kind of tackle it. And you've got little squares to look at, kind of whatever works for you. But you're going to want to have your, whatever, your tool that you're going to use to make your calendar. All right, so once you figure that out, I want you to think about, you're going to jot this down, 3 to 5 buckets of information or topics that you can talk about on social media, okay? I'm not going to spend a lot of time with you right now on, kind of brainstorming techniques, because I did an entire podcast on that. I'll link to it in the show notes of this video or podcast, however you're getting the information. It was episode number 10. Which you can find on my Curious Cowgirl website. But if you need help brainstorming and you're not really sure how to come up with good content, go listen to that podcast or watch that video and then come back here. So come up with your 5 buckets or things that you're going to talk about, okay? And then the next step is, on the calendar, you're going to randomize those topics throughout the month. So, if you're talking about, I don't know, whatever, apples, bananas, oranges, cheese, and grapes, okay? Spread out those words, sprinkle them throughout the calendar so that you're not talking about apples every day of the week or cheese every day of the week. It's all spread out, okay? So randomize your buckets. 3 to 5 doesn't make any difference, because you need to remember, you all, that while you are very acutely and keenly aware of your plan, your calendar, and what you're talking about on social media, most people are not paying that close of attention every single day to what you're doing. I mean, maybe you've got a handful of people, maybe your partner, your best friend, or your kids, whatever it is, they may pay attention to everything every day, but most people are not. So, if it's 3 topics that are spread out all through the month, that's fine. Now, people have short memories, short attention spans, and so don't worry that you're too repetitive with only 3 buckets. If you can come up with 5 buckets, that's even better, because then it really is a lot more randomized. Spread it out all over the calendar. Now, one of the things that I always tell particularly my students who take my digital course is this, and then I say this to my clients too. You can fill in all 30 days of the calendar. That's totally fine. But I want you to make sure that you're very clear with yourself and you really have made a handshake agreement with yourself about realistically how often are you going to be posting on social media. If you've got the bandwidth to do it 5-6 days a week, then rock on with your bad self and do it. But if this is a little bit new to you and you maybe you feel like you might need to get in the groove a little bit more, then maybe make your calendar where it's reflecting 3 days a week, or 4 days a week. You know, you can always increase it. That's not a problem, but don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning if you're not used to posting all the time. You can always do more. It's not advisable to do less. So maybe tiptoe into it a little lightly in the beginning, but reflect that in your calendar. So you may not be listing 30 things on your calendar to talk about. You know, if you're posting 3 days a week and there's 4 weeks in a month, then that's 12 things, right? If my math is right. So, you know, kind of take that into consideration, okay? Now, you can do a 30-day calendar, and if you want to, you could identify some days as days that you're posting on Facebook, other days you're posting on Instagram, and other days you're posting on Instagram stories. That's another way to tackle that. You know, wherever your primary platform is, Facebook or Instagram, I would start there first. Get really comfortable, get confident, get in a groove, and then maybe add on another platform. But again, you know, all of y'all are at different levels, and so I don't want to hold you back or make you feel like it's overwhelming. Figure out what frequency is right for you, how many platforms are right for you, and fill out your calendar accordingly as far as that goes, okay? All right, another thing that will help you, so I guess what are we on, 4 or so, is once you have filled out your calendar, this is when I want you to really get that 30,000 foot view of what does your content look like. So if you've ever questioned yourself about, is my content interesting, then take a step back and go, okay, are these 3 or 4 posts in the first week of November, are these going to be really interesting? Are they varied? Are they talking about my business in different ways? You know, you don't want to post the same thing over and over and over again. You know, I could post all day long now, you know, with this antique booth and selling on Instagram all day long, nothing but pictures of the stuff I'm selling, but my gosh, that would be boring, right? You've got to break it up and give people other things to learn about regarding you and other things to understand about your business. So again, that brainstorming episode number 10 will really help you think about your business from lots of different angles. But I want you to spend a minute kind of evaluating your calendar once you've filled it out. Is it interesting? Is it varied? How are my posts going to help forward my business? Those are all questions you want to ask yourself. And it may cause you to redo some things, which is awesome. You know, you're creating a plan. So do all the hard work and hard thinking at the beginning. Don't do it the minute you open up your phone and get ready to post on Instagram. It's too late at that point. There's no intentionality and thought behind that. Do all your hard thinking as you're working through your calendar, and the end result, the end product will be a lot better for sure. All right, another tool that I really like to share with my my students and my clients is this. All the work that you can do ahead of time before you are ready to kind of deploy your calendar is just going to serve you that much better when you get going. So one of the things you might want to think about doing, and I do this for my clients, is if I need to do any tagging in a post, for example, let's say like my antique booth, anytime I post a picture of something that we're selling in our booth, I always tag the antique mall itself. They have social media, right? And obviously I know their Instagram handle, but that's just as an example of somebody else that you might want to tag in a social media post. It could be a lot of different things. It could be the city where you are. It could be, I don't know, another dealer you're working with. Like there's a lot of things. I recently posted on Instagram stories about the mover that we used that I've used for years personally, but he helped us move into our antique booth, and I tagged him in one of the social media posts. So that's just an example of why you might want to tag somebody. So think through that, and if you think you need to tag somebody in a post, make a note of what their handle is on either Facebook or Instagram. It will save you having to look it up later on if you don't know it by heart. So take the time to do that. And then related, hashtags. I have talked a ton with y'all on in the podcast and in these training videos about the importance of hashtags on Instagram to increase your reach. So I would encourage you to make a list of the hashtags that you're going to use for each post. And it may be, you all, that your hashtags are pretty consistent across all of your posts. Maybe 10 of them are the same every time, but then maybe the next 10 or the next 15 are really specific to the object that you're talking about. But if you'll go ahead and make that list, it will save you so much time. If you don't use, as close to 30, Instagram lets us use 30 hashtags in our feed. And I always tell my clients, and I have to remind myself this too, because a lot of times I get in a hurry. If we don't use as close to 30 as we can, then we're missing opportunities to reach more potential clients and customers, right? And sometimes I'm in a hurry, or I'm just flat out feeling lazy. But if I've already done the work ahead of time, then I barely have to use my brain. I'm just copying what's on my calendar. So do your hashtag work and write down those hashtags for each one of your posts if you're doing it on Instagram. Takes time in the beginning, but it'll help you with the consistency piece when you get ready to post, okay? Okay, so once you've done all that work, then you're ready to go. You have yourself a content calendar or an editorial calendar. So as I said in the beginning, step number 1 is plan. Step number 2 is execute the plan. So really try to faithfully adhere to whatever plan you put together for 30 days, okay? And it's kind of, I hear people say this in a lot of different spaces. The health space a lot, kind of if you're going to change how you eat, commit to doing it differently for 30 days because it takes 30 days to break a bad habit and create a good new one. I think the same thing applies to social media. Commit to following your calendar for 30 days, and this is why. At the end of 30 days, I want you to take a little time to evaluate how successful you were, okay? Now, how do you do that? Well, there's a few ways. So if you will, on your calendar, when you get ready to get going, write somewhere on your calendar how many followers you have on Facebook or Instagram, again, wherever you're posting. Write down an average, just ballpark it, don't get too crazy with it, but an average of about how many people like your posts, again, on Facebook or Instagram. Make a note of, on average, how many people comment, just so you kind of have an idea of where you started, all right? And then don't look at that again for 30 days. Just focus on your well-planned calendar and executing on it. And then at the end of those 30 days, look and see if any of those numbers have gone up. I bet they will. In fact, I know they will. They're going to go up because you're being consistent, you're being interesting, and those are really important, not only in the real live people who are following you and that you want to attract to your social media, but also in terms of the algorithm. The algorithm, Facebook and Instagram both, it pays attention to how much we're on the platform. And so consistency is good for the artificial intelligence as well as like the real live human beings. So make a note and then compare it at the end of 30 days. And that's going to give you some information about, was that effort worth it? Did it pay off? Do you see growth? And if so, then do it again, okay? And in a lot of ways, you can reuse your calendar the next month. Now, I really would make sure that if there's any major holidays, obviously I would take note of that. I would adjust your calendar accordingly. But, in a lot of ways, you could reuse your calendar every month, okay? Maybe just make a few small tweaks. And so, kind of the very hardest work you do is the very first time you create it, and it gets a little bit easier as you go. I absolutely create calendars for myself. I would be lost in a fog if I did not have a plan about what I'm doing, and I really try to hold myself accountable to adhering to those calendars. My clients tell me the same thing. The calendars that I create for them. So my clients are like, I don't have time to do everything that I just showed y'all how to do. Please do it for me. This is one of the services I provide. I always say to them, this calendar is only as good as your ability to actually execute, so have a plan, work your plan, right? I think we've all probably, heard that a million times. So couple things. One is, again, I have given you all, I think, some very reasonable, actionable, easy to do, simple steps to create a plan for yourself and execute on that plan. I also know that there's a number of you all who are like, okay, Mary, that sounds awesome, but again, I barely have room to breathe. We're entering into the holiday season, or whatever, we're getting ready to do a big show or a big flea market, or or some non-work event is happening in your life, and I just don't have time to come up with this on my own, and I need your help, even if it's just for the beginning, just to get me going, and then I can take over. Okay, that's great. So I have a resource for you all that is only about editorial calendars. It's not any of the other services I provide. It is literally putting together an editorial calendar for you, so that you can then take it and run with it. All right. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes of the podcast and the link to the video on Facebook. If you're watching this on Instagram, DM me and I'll send you the link. So I have a Google Doc that I created that is an exact reflection of the conversations that I have with my one-on-one clients when we put together calendars. It's all the questions that I ask so that I can understand the nuances of your business, what you feel confident on, Facebook or Instagram, how often you want to post, kind of all the things that I've been talking about. I take you through a series of questions that you will answer. This is online, very easy to do. And then with that information, I will be able to put together a content calendar for you that once it's been paid for, then I will be able to send it to you, okay? Again, a lot of times, 1 month of me doing this for you is all you need to get going. I certainly have a number of clients that I do this for them every month, and I'm delighted to do that for you too. But just know that sometimes just getting you over the hump of that first month is all that you really need, and then you're kind of off to the races. So the pricing is on the questionnaire for however many months you would like my help. And again, I will put the link, all the places where I can leave a link if you're interested. If you want to understand more about that and want to have a little bit of a deeper conversation with me about that, feel free to email me, marythecuriouscowgirl@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Or if you feel like you need more help than just a calendar, then we can certainly schedule a phone call. But I know that for so many of my clients, the biggest thing is that calendar. Taking the time to create it just feels sometimes almost insurmountable. And so if that's something I could do for you that will help you, then let's do that together, especially, as we're entering into, the biggest shopping season of the year. Let's get something creative for you that's going to help, keep eyes on your business and what you are selling during this time period where a lot of people are doing a lot of buying and shopping. Okay. All right. So I hope this was helpful to you all. As always, I'm delighted that you were here with me, and I will look forward to talking to y'all again soon. Bye.